Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be deliberating on two very important topics. The first being growing extremism in India. Of course, when we talk about the backdrop of the growing extremism in India, we know that Indian government under the leadership of the BJP regime has been marginalizing the Muslim and other minority communities in India, and of course in regards to that we've seen the persecution of the Muslim, Sikh and Christian communities in India. There's also the promotion of Hindutva ideology by the RSS and a BJP nexus, which is resulting in the rise in radicalism and extremism that's been witnessed in India, with rise, with of course reference to the rise in mob violence, with rise to the desecration of the Quran incidents, and a rise in demolition of mosques as well. We've also seen what has been happening in occupied Jammu and Kashmir with regards to how it's the most militarized zone in the world. We hear every other day the cordon and search operations that the Indian forces are carrying out there, the atrocities being committed there, and the crackdown on dissent that has been occurring in occupied Jammu and Kashmir to silence the Kashmiri people. But we see that the BJP regime, it has expanded its nefarious agendas from Kashmir to other parts of India as well, where they are marginalizing the minority communities. We've also seen the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, and how the Indian government is using its force and taking out and taking all the administrative controls in their own hands, and having no disregard to the international laws and the international resolutions. We've also seen the crackdown on dissent, the crackdown on journalists in occupied Jammu and Kashmir and India. We saw there were earlier incidents with BBC, Al Jazeera as well. The recent incidents of Islamophobia, they also are a testament to how the BJP government is giving rise to its radical and extremist policies. With regards to that, we saw that prior to the elections, there was a drama staged by the BJP regime, particularly Narendra Modi, to appease his Hindu voters with the demolition of Babri Mosque. And of course, we saw that in regards to that, there were other demolition of 9 mosques in Gujarat in the guise of an anti-encroachment drive, which was also in defiance of the Supreme Court of India's order. Earlier, there were increased calls by the international community on India to hold India accountable for all the human rights abuses it has been committing, for all the extrajudicial killings it has been trying to commit in other countries, and of course the global terrorism that India is being referred to, that it is committing outside its soil. In the second segment, we'll be talking about how it is important to file taxes in Pakistan, as we know that the government is focused on tax reforms. The finance minister has time and time again reiterated on calls on how there's this crucial tipping point in which there's a need to increase the tax net, and he has asked all the business community, all the salary community to play their part and contribute to tax revenue of the country so the economic wheel can further spin. We'll be talking on both these topics. In the studios, we've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi. Along with that, we've been joined by geopolitical analyst Faisal. And on Skype, we've been joined by Major General retired Zahid Mahmood, who is a defense analyst. And thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. Considering our first topic, I'll start off with Major General retired Zahid Mahmood. Sir, what we've seen in India, secularism, it's going in the dustbin with the human rights abuses, how the minority communities are being marginalized. We saw the Manipur riots. Of course, we have been seeing what's happening against the Muslim community, the Sikhs, the Christians. How would you comment on what's happening in India with regards to its secularism?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rafae, for having me on your show. I must say that Indian Congress leaders, and at the creation of India, and initially once they got this freedom from the Britishers, so they envisioned a secular India. That what they were looking at in the future as well. But today, that the secular India, the claim of a secular India, that has been really tarnished by the Bharatiya Janata Party, the BJP government. I must say that we are confronting, rather the entire international community is confronting a new India, which is, we should call it a Bharat, because ideologically this name is now taken more. Even now they have been writing for the president, that the president of the Bharat. You must have heard the Jay Shankar speech in Assembly as well in the United Nations, that he said Namaskar from the Bharat. So this is a new India. This is a Hindu India, more saffronized, more Hindu dominated. So probably this was the effort by the Sangh Parivar, which is the BJP and their other two uh, religious factions, and the Hindutva family. Finally, they are in power in India, and this BJP has envisioned India, a Hindu-dominated India. So they have got that. Now coming over to the new, being Pakistani, being a ex-military guy, we have been trained and we have been matching uh, the developments, military developments over there. So Pakistan has always been able to match that development, and we knew what kind of military might they are gathering, and we were able to respond to the military might. But coming over to the new mindset, now Pakistan has a serious challenge to devise the ways and means to tackle the new mindset, the Hindu mindset. So the Hindu mindset, which has the expansionist policies, which is looking at the areas beyond India, all right? So their intimidation policy, their extremist policies, and keeping neighboring states as subservient, all right? So this is what the ideas they have, and they have been boosting about it. Maybe in the later in the program we would be talking how they are this political moves by the BJP, how they follow up on their Hindutva mindset, and how they are now they are exporting this extremism to the other parts of the region and to the world. They are pursuing their enemies like the Sikhs in Canada, Sikhs in United States, whatever is happening with Kashmir, what is happening in the other states inside India, whatever is happening on the borders of Bangladesh, all right, and the low-caste Hindus, Christians. So everybody is under stress, and they are victim of this extremist policies, thoughts. And Mr. Narendra Modi, the butcher of Gujarat, is pursuing his policies with no, he's not leaving any stone unturned. He's really following his policies strongly, and we need to devise the new strategies to tackle with this new Hindu Bharat.
Definitely, General Zahid will, of course, deliberate on it further. But before that, I'd like to include comments from Raja Faisal with regards to what we're seeing in India, the human rights abuses, and the new face that we're seeing. It's a Hindu India. With regards to that, how would you comment on the secularism, the essence of secularism in India's constitution?
Yeah, Rafae, it's a good question. And of course, if we look at India, I mean, the very start of India saw that the first murder in India took place was of secularism when Nathuram Godse actually killed Mahatma Gandhi at that time, because Gandhi represented secularism and he was the first murder of India at that time. And of course, with the Nathuram Godse's this murder, everyone knew that where India is going. And of course, if we talk about the extremism within India, especially the Hindu extremism, that is not something that is a new phenomenon. It is since the start they have been doing it. And even if we talk about not BJP, but if we talk about Congress, I mean Indian National Congress, it was the time of Indian National Congress when Golden Temple took place, and in which, of course, thousands of Sikhs, they were brutalized by the Hindutva ideology at that time. And of course, we saw that overall it had the backing of then government in India. And of course, we know that whatever the steps have been taken by the government throughout, be it Indian National Congress or later on BJP, every step had the, of course, footprints of the Hindutva ideology. And now, I mean, in this particular case, what we are looking at is, of course, first they went towards Ayodhya and for the Ram temple, and of course Babri Masjid was martyred at that time. And after that, the design they had was to, of course, implement their sort of ideology in there. And now once again we are looking into Gujarat, where Gujarat is known for being a state where Modi used to be CM when the massacre of Muslims took place back in 2002. And at that time we know that it was clear that Gujarat is no more safe for Muslims or any other minorities, because Modi, he openly dictated in Gujarat that the state police would stand with the majority, and that was of course of the Hindus. At that time the Hindutva ideology was given a go ahead for 24 hours to do whatever they like, and nobody stopped them. It wasn't only the brutalized behavior which was shown towards the vandalism, which was shown towards the buildings, the Muslim mosques, the Muslim owned businesses at that time. But of course there are several cases which actually came on media, or which actually were reported to the law enforcement authorities, but thousands were not even reported to the authorities. I'm talking about the rape. I'm talking about the rape victims and the rape culprits. Very recently we saw that in one of the cases there was this Bano BB girl who was actually subjected to one of these rapes, and it was the a gang rape, and the gang that was caught, later on they were set free and they were roaming around in their society, and nobody said anything. So it is not only extended towards the Muslims. I mean, in this case Somanath temple is what they want, and what they are doing is, of course, the mosques of the Muslims, the cemeteries of the Muslims, the businesses of the Muslims, on the residential houses of the Muslims, they are being destroyed on the basis that this is the particular place where there used to be one of the Somanath Mandir temple, and we want it back. It's more of a sort of like we always see Zionists. They believe that wherever the Muslim mosques are in Jerusalem, the Muslim mosques or churches, they should not be there at all. Reason being, they are the places exclusively for the Judaism. And when we see that all of these settlers, when they go to different places, they simply occupy the houses. We have footages after footages that actually show the settlers telling these things to people at large, be they Muslims or Christians of Jerusalem, of Palestine.
Definitely.
They simply tell them that this land traditionally belongs to us, so you don't have any right to be here, be it like you have been here for 200 centuries or 2 centuries or whatever, or maybe somebody was 1,000 years ago settled there. Still they won't accept it, because they believe that before Christ whatever was there, it should be there. And same is the case with today's India. I mean, everything has changed in India, and there are mosques that are even 800 years ago built, or 400 years ago built, or 500. Nobody would care. Nobody would care about that. If somebody is buried in one of the cemeteries since 600 years ago, nobody cares about it. All they want is one of the Swami would get in there, or one of the temple in charge would get in there, and he would say, I had a dream that this is the very place where there used to be a mandir before, a temple before, and that's it. We have to make it once more. So this Sikh mentality, I don't know what's an end to it, but as long as we can talk about today's Bharat, then we can simply say that today's Bharat is not secular at all, and it is Hindutva ideology that is dictating its terms.
Well, the point very well made, Raja Faisal. For Pitafi, I'd like your comments. Of course, we earlier saw that Article 29 of the Indian Constitution, it gives rights to the minorities, and it clearly states No discrimination to be done on the ground of religion, race, caste, language, or any of them. With regards to that, we also see the recent legislations being made. Of course, the Citizenship Amendment Act, the Hindutva ideology itself, it's a negation of the Article 29 of the Indian Constitution. How do you comment on what's happening there? What do you think they're trying to do? Of course, they have their hegemonic designs, they have their Hindutva designs, but what are they trying to do to the country?
Right, Rafae, thank you very much for the question. I think that I just want to actually start with what was said before, and then of course I'm going to focus on what you said as well. Earlier, General Saab was actually mentioning how India, and Faisal also made a note of that, how India is now being called Bharat. And that actually tells you how that nomenclature changed. That actually changed when Congress-led alliance decided to call itself India. That was the time when they decided that now they are going to change the entire country's name, because of course they can't be associated with anything that Congress or other opposition parties do. Now what I'm actually trying to build here, and let me also slightly mention the Constitution. India's Constitution, when it was conceived, did not include the word secularism. It did include a word that is still there but rarely used, and that was socialism, right? India is going to be socialist because one man who was writing the Constitution, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, was a Dalit, and he thought that equality was very important, right? It was later on Congress included the word secularism into the Constitution, and of course then India, given its propaganda machinery, started perpetuating that it is a secular country. I usually say that India is no more secular than Pakistan is an Islamic state. Every country which has this kind of population has complications, right? India's problem is that India was repeatedly colonized, and because of that there is a lot of pent up, anger, or so to speak, about past conquerors and all whatnot. But this Bharat that you talk about, this new Indian mentality that you talk about, is not new, right? We know that the current BJP's government has been in power for 11 years now, but 10 years and few months, but then it is their 11th year. Now the question is, why is it that everybody all of a sudden is talking about secularism and Hindutva in India? India kept on doing all this during Modi's 10 years as well. But there's something that seems to have shifted. And if somebody is trying to bring their attention to something, then realize that they are trying to use it as a distraction for something even bigger that is going on, right? And there's amazing story that you look at. Remember that India actually built this Ram temple at Ayodhya, Faizabad, and after that they thought that Modi is going to get another 5 years. But that did not happen. What changed? They call it this religious or communal polarization, Dhruvikaran, right? They tried Dhruvikaran in India repeatedly. Whatever was working in the past 10 years did not work this time. That's why BJP is led down to 240 seats in the elections rather than getting Abki Baar 400 par, right? So with that kind of state of affairs, what has shifted? Now, eventually this happens that people start focusing on what is being said and what is being done. Somehow people realize that the purpose of having Modi as the Prime Minister and Amit Shah as the Home Minister is to draw attention from something else that is going on in somewhere else. Both these gentlemen come from a state called Gujarat. And in Gujarat, of course, there's Somnath Mandir also. It was also historically the first site of Indian, actually British colony. The first East India Company's factory that was built at Surat. But this time what is happening is amazing, and you have to look at it. There are two businessmen. One is called Ambani, one is called Adani. While they keep on dividing you and they keep on actually taking your attention away from the economic activities going on in India, Indian state keeps on building up these balloons that go elsewhere and try to colonize other countries also. And they have actually destroyed the lives of Indians. Recently, Ambani's son's marriage was going on, and that is a marriage that perhaps is never going to end. The ceremonies are not going to end. Whatever has happened is pre-marriage ceremonies so far. And amazingly, Indian Air Force was manning the airport at that time when the wedding was going on. And after that, because Ambani owns this Geo business which is into mobile phones, immediately the prices were jacked up. So everybody was subsidizing Ambani's ki shadi, right? With that kind of state of affairs, now because there is another election taking place, they want your attention away from it, right? They want your attention away from exploitation of the common man, or the Dalits, or the OBCs, or the Muslims, Christians, and whatnot, and the state of India. That's why this whole story keeps on emerging. And they have tried repeatedly, even though Indian Supreme Court had actually barred various governments from demolishing any structure without Supreme Court's permission. But despite that, what has happened right now is that they have done it because there is an election going on in Haryana, there is an election going on in Jammu and Kashmir, and in Kashmir, of course, they have given up hopes of conquering. They are going to use either Engineer Rashid or, for that matter, PDP to get whatever they want there. But they have then actually changed the demography of Jammu and actually gone for delimitation. So through that, they have increased the number of seats of Jammu in the whatever the Union Territory Assembly is going to be. And there, because you have predominant Hindus, you want this perpetual fear of Muslim invaders or Muslim threat, and that's why you keep on igniting that fire. Similarly, in Haryana, they kept on using all this fear-mongering of Muslims and whatnot to consolidate Hindu vote. Now what is happening is Dalits are saying that the first attack that takes place is on reservations of, about lateral entry. They try to actually hire people directly from the private sector. One example is SEBI's chair, that is their security board. But apparently a lot of people would have come, and they would have come at the cost of reservation of the Dalits. So what they have done is, Dalits are very angrily pushing back. Similarly, OBCs are also. So at this moment, Modi's magic has started to wane. So what not to do? Not talk about caste, not talk about Adani, Ambani, talk about Hindu-Muslim. And amazingly, we also add to that, I am hoping about that Indian media is so craven that now nobody watches it. Indians also watch us. So now we are going to do that. Let us see whether it is going to help Narendra Modi or not.
Well, of course, people want concrete substance, and we are giving concrete substance by talking about such issues, of course. With regards to that, Major General Zahid Mahmood, I'd like your comment. When we talk about how they're promoting this talk of Hindu and Muslim, when we talk about this promotion of this Hindutva ideology, it of course in turn resultantly gives rise to the radical and extremism and the incidents we see arising out of these policies. How do you comment on that? And of course, with regards to that, we've also seen that there's another country that also incites Islamophobia, and there's a nexus between the two also, which came to light as in the Lebanon blast, the pager blast that were witnessed earlier. The investigations, they point towards an Indian citizen being a part of those pager explosions. How do you comment on the nexus between these two in promoting instability in the world? Of course, there's reference made to global terrorism.
And General Zahid, if you can add in another incident that took place a couple of years ago. Of course, it was of few of the Indian Navy officers. After retirement, they joined Mossad and they were adjusted in the Middle Eastern countries, and they were spying for Israel.
Well, as I've already said, that this Bharat, this India, it's the extremism which is emanating from this country. It is spreading all over. I've already spoken about their reach in Canada, United States, and now their collaboration with the Israelis. So probably these are the two countries: the Israelis, the Jews against the Muslims, and now the Hindus against the Muslims. So this is a very famous mantra. You know, the common thing between Modi and the Israeli Prime Minister. So he was down and out in the politics. You know, so there was a lot of pressure on him about his performance in Gaza, and he was unable to uh, bring back those so-called captives which were in Gaza. And there was a lot of political pressure on Netanyahu from the right. So to ease that pressure, he has promoted the war, and he has expanded the war. He was in Gaza, he went into Lebanon, and of course he's already in Yemen, Syria. So they are pursuing the, probably to me, I think it's the beginning of pursuing the idea of the greater Israel in that region in Middle East. Now here, Mr. Modi, whenever there is a political activity, whenever there are elections, so this is an easy and a very popular mantra about Muslims and Pakistan, you know. So these two countries, these two friends, I would call them evils on God's earth now. So they have the common ideology and the common approach to pursue their political objectives. Now look at Amit Shah, I mean, his statement in Jharkhand probably on 20th, when he said that we should hang upside down all the infiltrators coming from the Bangladesh. So I'm glad that this is no more that Bangladesh of Hasina Wajid. They have been making these statements in all political rallies and all over earlier as well. But Hasina Wajid was very naive, you know, she never reacted to that because she was, I mean, their prime minister in Bangladesh. But this time their high commissioner, deputy high commissioner probably has been summoned by the Foreign Office of Bangladesh. So now they are, you know, calling him, and they are asking India and pressurizing India to stop their leaders to speak about and to make such statements. So this is one, you know, commonality which I have observed in the recent past, and the whole world is observed. Now, coming over to the retired naval officers and the you know, Kulbhushan is also naval. Probably they have the naval officers in the Indian military are probably more expert in expanding their these nefarious designs and protecting and expanding and increasing the terrorism and extremist policies. So probably there's some school or maybe their war college of the or maybe the institution to the naval officers. They're giving them.
They're not doing a very good job at training them then.
Yeah, I don't know. But probably this is another instrument of war, probably they have carved it. They have carved this is as another instrument of war. You know, once they are unable to, like in Pakistan case, we have been matching India since our creation, you know. There was a thought in India that this is a country which is not going to stay for more than 6-8 months, you know. But we have been, alhamdulillah, by the grace of God and with the support of the people of Pakistan and our strong forces, we are always there to match them, you know. If they cross the line, we are able to hunt down their aircraft. If they're conducting 5 tests, we are conducting 8 tests. If they're employing the missiles against Pakistan and thinking about striking in Pakistan, they are conveyed the message that it will be matched double. So in the quid pro quo, they have a country in their neighborhood. So once they have failed in the application of these conventional forces, so they have adopted to this fifth generation war through the hybrid war, and then through their these extremist policies. And now they're like incidents like Kulbhushan and whatever they're doing with Pakistan from Afghanistan, you know. So they have adopted this way. So this is also emanating from the Hindu mentality. Okay, they have the encouragement. Farrukh was talking about the Supreme Court and laws and all that. I have strong apprehensions. I mean, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and I don't expect that the Supreme Court of India is now going to give any verdict or going to implement their whatever their decisions previously. In 2018, they have already given a decision about the special status in Kashmir, about 370. Who is implementing? Who is following that? No one, you know. Their media, another, I mean, which could have been a check on the expansionist policies of these Hindus, They have more than 400 channels. They have more than 100,000 newspapers and social media. So they all have been co-opted by the government, So they follow the policy of the government. It is through the intimidation and there's no freedom. What to talk of secularism? I'm not seeing anybody free. Even the freedom of speech, only few maybe YouTube channels maybe. So everybody has been co-opted by the government. They are under intimidation. They are under control of the government. So they're also actually helping them expanding this Hindu ideology and Hindu mantras all over. So where they're taking to this India, and then the acceptance by the international community because of the economic interest and the huge population of India. So there's a wide acceptance of whatever is happening with them. They ban the companies in Turkey and Russia and all over the world which are providing weapons or systems to Pakistan, and they allow the same companies to export the weapons to India. So this acceptance, international acceptance, is also helping them in pursuing their policies. So as I said, that Pakistan has to carve the policies to challenge and to counter this new Hindu mentality, more saffronized, rather totally saffronized Bharat. Though Congress has shown some signs in Kashmir elections that they are talking about the special status, and probably this is again a kind of a political move, because they are looking at the seats in the valley where more independents are contesting elections. As Jammu, the BJP is eyeing on those 42, 43 seats. So this is again seems political, but at least Congress has some guts to speak about what was a little closer to the secularism and the freedom and the status and all that. But we have to see and how they go about it.
Definitely, we'll talk about that as well, and of course the saffronized courts, the saffronized media with regards to that. Raja Faisal, I'd like your comments first when we talk about this hegemonic nexus that is coming to the fore, that is coming to the world to see, and what it has been doing in the world. How do you comment on it, and how do you think it can be curbed now? Because of course it does come as it's the major spoiler of peace, this nexus at the moment.
Yeah, it's an important question, but before that, going towards it, when we talk about, National Congress, Indian National Congress, I mean, we always tend to have a soft corner. I think we shouldn't be having that soft corner at all. Reason being, when we see that the business of hate, I mean, politics was all about business of hate in India since the start. And what we saw that gradually and slowly, BJP excelled and knocked out everyone. When Indian National Congress saw itself knocked out and leaving with no opportunity at all in the hate business, they simply started going towards the other side, portraying as if they were sort of a party that is more receptive towards the other religions as well within India. So I think it was lack of options for them. That is why they went towards it. Otherwise, they are they are part of the same dirty bunch, political gimmicks of India, and we shouldn't be having any sort of expectations from them. When we come towards the hegemonic designs of India as a state, we saw that since the day one, they were hegemonic towards its neighbors. They were hegemonic towards its all neighbors, not only towards Pakistan, but of course, if we take the example of Nepal, if you take the example of Bhutan, Bhutan is a country that has, it relies on India for everything. And even it is said that, if India closes its borders, of course, Bhutan would see itself no more. Yeah. And when we talk about Sri Lanka, when we talk about Bangladesh, it was hegemonic towards it. In recent times, they have been carrying out their activities against Bangladesh, against Myanmar, against Sri Lanka, against Nepal, all of them, of course, there wasn't any reaction, the adequate reaction from their side. And then Indians, they thought that, oh, if nobody is saying anything, shouldn't we try on Pakistan as well? One very fine day, they thought of doing that. And of course, they came towards Pakistan, and Pakistan gobsmacked them, and it was a sort of coming back to the realities kind of chapter for India. And we saw that in February 2019, I mean, the way our forces, the way our defense forces, especially the Air Force, it reacted to it, and it was such a brilliant gobsmack that since then India was looking around for new planes, looking around for new weapons, looking around for each and everything, so that next time if it happens, they can perform a little well. But of course, when it comes to, as we always say, it's not the gun but the man behind the gun that matters the most. So this is the case here. They might have Rafaels, they might have latest of weaponry from Americans when it comes to Chinooks, when it comes to Apaches, when it comes to Predators or Sea Guardians or whatever they have in recent times, to, of course, in case if anything happens again against Pakistan, they can utilize it. Once more, we would say that it is man behind the gun that would matter the most, and once more Pakistan will show them. When it comes to, of course, Pakistan discreetly, they have been doing, as Jana Zahid has rightly pointed out, from Afghanistan, not only during the Ghani regime or Karzai regime, even now they have their people who were the previous NDS, and suddenly they put on the turban, suddenly they grew the beard and started pretending as if they were part of Taliban, and on ground they are the very people who are still facilitating TTP, still facilitating BLA, still facilitating BLF, or you name it, they are still facilitating them. And of course, the only design they are left with, that if face to face they will go towards Pakistan, they will always see whatever happened in February 2019, but the only chance they have is through discreet manners, as earlier highlighted Kulbhushan Jadhav. Mubarak Hussain Patel, he was called while he was in Pakistan, and he had these designs. Since we have started catching all of these Navy officers of India, now they are utilizing the NDS leftovers, the sort of NDS ground staff that is still active, and they are the very people who are sort of sending arms or sending money to all of these terrorists sitting in Afghanistan, carrying out activities within Pakistan, especially against CPAC.
For Pitafi, your quick comments on how the conversation has shaped up before we move towards the second
Thank
segment.
you for the opportunity. Don't expect my comments to be very quick because there was a lot of things was said earlier. Expansionism in India. Now that is an interesting concept because India is considered one of the victims of history, one country that has repeatedly been colonized. So is there a possibility that India is going to be a colonizer? May I just try to change your paradigm, just to qualify that it is not in India's luck to be independent. Earlier there used to be East India Company, now there is a West India Company. You spoke about self-organized courts, parliament and all. I will humbly differ with that. And I would say Adaniized courts, Adaniized parliament and all. There was a very interesting story by scroll.in that showed that every visit that Modi partook, international visit, was quickly followed by some project in that country by Adani Corporation, right? Now, I know what India has been doing in Bangladesh, what Adani has been trying to do in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, in Bhutan, in Nepal, in Pakistan also. By the way, they are trying to actually buy a couple of your, airports as well, through other means, for frontmen and all. But with all that, all you have to do is just expand the definition of colonization and understand that today's India is also a colony. It is a colony of an Indian, right? But these are very strange people. India's businessmen are self-rising. Remember, I just mentioned East India Company. Nowadays, a company called the East India Company in UK. And do you know who owns it? One of India's businessmen, right? And he is a friend of a bigger Indian businessman. So they somehow, this colonialism has rattled their mindset. And the victims have become victimizer, but in order to be victimizers, they allow to be victims again. And now they are being colonized repeatedly by these two big businesses. Remember the day Article 370 and 35A were abolished, at that time there was the celebration in Jammu, because Hindus thought that they are going to get a voice, and in Ladakh. But do you know what has happened since then? In Ladakh, everyone is worried that Adani is coming and he is going to open the solar park and he is going to take away all the property from us. Similarly, Modi ji has started actually bringing in more, outsiders, because 35A was a bulwark against that, into Jammu. And now, because of that, Hindus are thinking that now Hindus of Jammu who were locals now are fearing that they are going to become minority in their own areas. So with that kind of state of affairs, at this moment, I understand what Indian state is doing, but I thought that through the mention of Indian Air Force and its role in Ambani's Shadi, that would indicate to you what exactly is going on. They have practically taken over the state. They are the state now. And because they are the state, all these activities, and this is the saddest part. You know, I can understand Ajit Doval doing this, that or the other thing for the national security. Every country has that component that does that. But man, you are doing it for Adani and Ambani? I mean, and then helping them colonize your country. Where is your patriotism? With that kind of people, who needs an enemy?
Definitely, that's some very important points that you raised, Farrukh Pitafi, of course. With that, we'll conclude the debate for today. Major General retired Zahid Mahmood and Farrukh Pitafi, along with the geopolitical analyst Faisal. I'd like to thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. Of course, we discussed India's hegemonic designs, the growing extremism in India, and of course, how the minority communities in India are being marginalized. It's the Muslims, the Sikh and the Christian communities in India, and of course, how the BJP regime is oppressing them. And of course, it's also very important to file taxes, as FBR, it had given it the deadline for today. And of course, the finance minister has also time and time reiterated again how there's a need to increase the tax net, and of course how the people, all the business community, all the salaried class, everyone needs to be responsible, play their part and contribute in tax revenue. And of course, in that regards, there has been time and time been spoken about the FBR chairpersons and the finance minister as well, as how the people need to file their taxes, because it is the people of Pakistan, it is the Pakistani people that need to file their taxes. Someone else from outside is not going to contribute to the national economy. With that, we'll conclude today's show. See you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.